With a $3 microphone, a home studio made of pallets, and a face made for voiceover, it's Hoover on the VO School Bus.
Tonight, what heights will hit? On with the show, this is it.
And so I'm here with Troy Holden. Funny story. I sent him a link today on what I use to usually do these. It didn't work. So he actually had to use his Zencaster, which I will be looking into now, to set this up and do the recording. He's going to send me the file. That's always fun. But hey, this guy, he's ready for anything. So
Whatever
Troy,
it takes.
yes. Troy Holden, hey man, thank you for coming on and being on the show. I sure appreciate it. Why don't you just go ahead and start right in and tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, family, whatever you want to discuss there.
Sure. Troy Holden, Blue Collar Voice of Choice is my branding. Started that up a little less than 2 years ago. I live near Nashville, Tennessee, probably about 30, 40 minutes north, right up on the Kentucky border, just a little east, northeast of Nashville. Been in the Middle Tennessee area most of my life. As a kid, spent some time in Georgia and Texas, which really helped my accent. It was great to get two more southern states mixed in there.
Right, yeah.
And so we came back to Tennessee when I was about 11, 12 years old and been here ever since. I'm married. My wife, Amy, wonderful support system. She is a CT technician at the local hospital here. She works weekends at night. And so she's home during the week. So we're both home during the week, which is awesome. I've got a youngest child that's 18 that graduates next week and will be going off to Avila over in Kansas City, Missouri to play football. And my other kids are in their 30s and they're in their own careers and doing their own thing down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Oh, great.
And we live on a little 16-acre farm. I got a dozen horses, a couple of dogs, 2 or 3 cats. So it's a busy place.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And so are you experiencing any of the up and coming nesting, empty nest syndrome? You know, when my last one moved out, my wife did, I was ready to throw a party. I'm like, go forth, you know.
Yeah, just as we were getting ready for that, her daughter lost her roommate and had to move back in with us. So, the empty nesting, it's not going to happen for a while. So.
I'm just going to tell you, I have 5 boys and they just keep coming back. I mean, you know, I got my, I love him. My 40-year-old has to be here for a little bit, has moved and had a change in his situation. So they just when I think I'm free, they keep pulling me back. And so,
yes, absolutely.
give us a little bit of your VO birthing process. How did you go from a guy on 16 acres with just a little bit of a Southern accent into the VO world?
It was a very interesting trek, although if I rewind back to childhood, I always wanted to go into broadcasting. I didn't know if it would be sports announcing, newscaster, radio DJ. I didn't know. So I went to college for that. I went to Middle Tennessee State. I went in the Mass Comm program. I found out the first year that you would probably starve to death if you went into radio. So I decided to get a business degree.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I just kind of let it go. But all my life, I've been, since 5, 6 years old, I've been reading into a cassette recorder and playing it back and reading the news or the sports or whatever. And I always had a DJ set up in my bedroom, turntables and little junky speakers, but I always wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So, fast forward to COVID, the company I was working for, we had to do pretty decent size. We had 140, 50 people. It was a manufacturing environment. And bringing people back during the COVID aftermath, I guess you'd bring in 10 people a week or 15 the next week as you're ramping up. And HR said, we don't want to do face-to-face training for all this. Could we record videos? Could you speak, in the videos? Because I did a lot of the company meetings. So I did that. And one of the HR girls said, you could make money doing that. And I said, really? So away I went digging into it through, YouTube and everything else. And I found what we all find, Bill DeWeese, Anthony Pica, different people, got into some of that, started learning it, started buying some equipment, as I could, and then got started. And like a lot of people, you get on some of these pay to plays or free platforms and start working. And next thing I knew, I was pretty busy.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I've kind of, I wouldn't say I've been following you, but I've seen you from time to time, probably over the last year or so. I'm also in the Anthony Pica Elite Academy, and just a wonderful, I mean, I can't say enough about that group over there and the people and just the programs that they have and the cost. I was just blown away by the things that the training, the amount of training that I could get done for being in the Elite Academy. So a little plug for Anthony. I want you to know he doesn't know I'm plugging it, doesn't pay me anything, but it's really good. And we'll just move into that because he has just received a little unwanted backlash. You just went through some of that yourself, this idea of friendly fire. What do you think's going on there? What do you think causes some of this with these, these are supposed to be fellow voiceover people. How come they're angry?
It's really hard to say at some point. Everybody's got their own personal thing and they may have a personal feeling about it. What I think what I garner from it, especially since I am with some agents, I have gotten agency work and I know the difference in what it pays. I see their point of, that's the way they always did it. And of course, I am not SAG-AFTRA. I'm non-union. A lot of the work now has gone non-union, 80% of it. So yes, when you book through agencies, sure, you make a lot more money for a lot less work. But the thing is, how are you going to learn? Well, you go to classes, you go to coaching or whatever. But if you're not making any money, how are you going to invest in that if it's not your living? And it can't be your living because there's nothing to go out there and get. I mean, you're not going to jump into this and sign with 5 agents and start getting agency work.
Yeah.
So how do you learn? How do you do it? And I think the perception is that all the voiceover work is going to become $5 voiceover work. That's not the way it's going to happen.
Right.
If you look back 5 years ago, you didn't have all of this extra stuff, or even further back, you didn't have hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels needing a narration. You didn't have all these companies doing all this e-learning and all this internal stuff. And yes, bigger companies pay big money. But what about the little companies, the mom and pops and all those who can't afford $6,000 for their e-learning? They can only afford $500 or $200. Somebody's going to get that work.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference in how the industry is viewed. That right now, in my opinion, there's 2 industries. There's the old and the new, and they're starting to mesh. And I think that scares people because they're afraid it's going to pull the rates down.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will for the good work. So maybe that's the defense mechanism of, I don't want everything to go to this $5 thing and pour Fiverr with the name Fiverr. They're known for $5, and everybody thinks, well, you only get $5 when you work there. That's not true either.
Right.
So there's a lot of misunderstanding going on, I think, and people are lashing out and they're mad. And I give respect to anybody that doesn't lash back. I think that's the way to go. I just think I understand you don't like the way it's going, et cetera. You've been in this a long time and it was always this way, but now it's went this other way. And I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I really hate it,
I'm with you on that whole thing. It's got to be very, difficult. But I'm a capitalist in the end. It's like when I got into the wood floor business, it used to be a real art. And even when I first got into doing wood floors, it was all hand, slammed in it, and it took a long time. There have been guys that had doing it forever, and they made a lot of money doing it. Well, then they came out with pneumatic tools and different things. And when I got into it, I could do it for about a half and do it just as well. And of course, nobody believed that. And I felt, there was part of me that went, I feel bad that, I'm taking some of this, but not bad enough not to do it. And, so it's kind of like I sit here. And just like you said, how are you going to learn? That was what I did. I said, you know what? The first 2 years, I'm going to consider it school. And if I can make some money on it, great. But I'm just going to learn my DAW. I'm going to learn how to, just how to do it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think you're exactly right. First of all, there's a big misunderstanding of what Fiverr is or what some of these places are doing. And I have a lot of respect for these guys that have been in it forever too. So I think we're just going to have to wait it out until they calm down. Of course, I came up with this idea of we're like Hogwarts. We talked about this before, but that we kind
Hmm.
of discovered this wizarding world. We discovered this world where we could go in and use our voice. And so you have these folks, and some of them are just not nice, and they belong to the
Right.
Slytherin house. They're old school, and y'all are mudbloods, and you're messing everything up. And then you've got old school like Ravenclaw, who they're like, "Hey, man, don't mess this up. Come along. I'll teach you. Get off of that Fiverr. Let me show you how to make some real money." Those are the folks that I like. And then there's, some of us that just, I know, I'm a narrator, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that. You want to avoid, you don't want to do that. So I belong to Hufflepuff, and you would be more of a Gryffindor. You're new, you're
Uh-huh.
excited, you're coming
Uh-huh.
in, you're just learning your magic. And so I think in the end it'll wash out. But tell me a little about what is your favorite thing to do? What is your genre? What is your favorite genre to work in, and what do you like to do?
I fully believe the industry will point you where you need to go.
Yeah,
So I've tried to do that. I do a decent amount of political ads, regular commercial type stuff. I'm still doing quite a few YouTube narrations by choice because they pay pretty decent, the ones that I have left, and they're very consistent. So I know I have that income coming in.
nice. Yeah,
But if I could pick, I would say put me on every outdoor channel you could put me on. Let me do hunting
yeah,
and fishing shows, or and I really am digging hard to get into the automotive stuff, especially in the southeast part of the country, because I do believe I worked in automotive industry as a tier one supplier that made engine parts for
gotcha.
General Motors, Toyota, all that. So I know where the industry is. I know there's still chip shortages. I know there's car shortages. It's going nuts, but it will come back. And
Right,
somebody
right.
said, well, what happens when electric cars take over? Well, you know what? 4 tires and a steering wheel. Somebody's got to sell them. They're still going to sell them. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
going to be commercials for that. So I really want to learn and dig to get into that, not on a national level, but in a local tier level to where I could do the local dealership stuff, because I feel like I've got a niche for that and can do it. But oddly, the industry pushed me to where I was doing a lot of game trailers, which was unusual, and
Oh,
some really
fun.
weird character voices. And I enjoy the character stuff. I've done quite a bit of character slash animation stuff. But if I could pick, yeah, give me commercial, political, automotive, I'm happy. But
Gotcha.
I'll take the other.
Yeah. Yeah. I've listened. I went over, of course, to your site, which is troyholdenvoices.com. Is that correct? I'll
Mm-hmm.
throw that
Mm-hmm.
up on the screen and post here. But, and I listened to your demos. Very good. Your voices are wonderful. Some of the like the wizard voice, I was listening to that and I thought, wow, you really could do some gaming, I think, in that. And so, yeah, I'm just really pleased. I've seen how quickly you've picked this up. Which, you know what? Let's just get right into how quickly you've picked something up, because you're also helping to produce demos. Tell us a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about your demo production and your idea about that, because I'm probably going to, here in a couple weeks, I'm going to get a hold of you. I've listened to the demos you've made, and I just think I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I need to get started. I can't
Right.
afford
Right.
Chuck and Stacy out there in California. And I got to
Right.
tell you, maybe it's my ear. Maybe I'm not refined enough, but I don't hear a ton of difference. So, kind of give us your idea on your demos and what you're doing there.
Sure, sure. I think the main difference, and when I started in this, I was adamant that I knew I couldn't pay for a commercial demo, and I even talked to J. Michael Collins early on and got pricing, and it involved several sessions of coaching, and yeah, absolutely, I needed all that at the time.
Right.
But where it led me to is I had to dig in and learn to do my own stuff. Mike Hathcote taught me a lot. Mike was a great teacher. Um, as far as how to mix stuff and how to make it work. But my approach on it is I'm not giving you a pro demo. I'm giving you something better than what you got, or maybe something better than what you could do yourself, because you're getting the third party view. When you
Right.
do stuff on your own, you will have a tendency to pick what you like and you'll mix it the way you like it, and it'll sound pretty good. And then you'll throw it out there on some Facebook pages and ask for opinions, and people will be about 10% honest with you, is what I've
Right.
found.
Yeah.
They will tell you it sounds great and etc. And then finally, maybe somebody will come in and say, no, your music's a little loud. I don't like the arrangement of your spots. So what I found when I got into this was if I took some questions from people and found out what products they believed in, what they liked, where they went to eat, what they liked to drink, build their demo around the products they like,
Right.
go to the website of the products and from scratch write the scripts, make them fairly simple, look at the things on the website of where the company is, exactly what they do, what their mission statement is, and put together a decent script for that. And the first couple I did were okay, and by the time I got to the third or fourth one, I felt like I think I've kind of got a little niche for this. It works pretty good. And the other thing is being directed. I'm not a coach. I'm not a professional demo person. I tell people that up front. But
Right.
I think I can help you get a little better in what you got. And what I've seen so far, the 4 or 5 that I've done, they're putting those things out on platforms and they're increasing their business. So it's getting them listened to a little more.
Sure.
And of course, the key is in that first 5-10 seconds.
Yeah.
If you get them, if they listen to that, and you can hit them with a second spot that keeps their attention and they keep going, you've got them where you want them. And I've been in audio stuff, music for, 30 years, whether it was in bands that were going into recording studios and having to go through the sessions of listening to the mixes and all that. So I feel like I got a decent ear for applying the right music and the right this and that.
Right.
But again, if you can afford to go get the other, for God's sake, go get it if you're ready and you can reproduce that sound and you can self-direct and self-coach yourself through spots that you send out for auditions. But if you're not to that point yet, you just need a better demo than what you can put together. I can probably help you.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I've listened to some of your work, and I'm really impressed. And the thing about it is I've always had this this kind of since I've been about the same amount of time as you have. I think you might have about a month on me. And by the way, I kind of did the same thing. I went to the American School of Broadcasting over in Oklahoma City many, many years ago because I was going to be a disc jockey, and then the Lord took me in a different direction, ended up being a preacher. And, and going off to Costa Rica and doing all kinds of stuff. I got back and found out I could make a little money doing this. And, I'm at a small church. And so I was always thinking, well, and now if I go, I want to send somebody something I can reproduce or come close to reproducing with my voice. And so I thought, well, if I go out there and I spend $2,000 on a demo, yeah, it's going to sound, really, really awesome. But then can I give that to somebody? And so I think you're right. I think you've got a niche there for some of these folks that are in their earlier stages that don't have any clue what to do with this audio. And I think you've got a good little thing there that can help those people out. I think it's wonderful. So I heard you, by the way, on another podcast. Now let's talk about that real quick. You have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast a little.
Yeah, I started the VO Life, I think it was January of last year. Had a partner on there with me for our first 20 episodes, and we kind of ended up going our separate ways. And I went ahead and continued it and changed. It started out as the voiceover ladder. I changed it over to the VO Life. It was kind of to chronicle some things as to what I was doing, where people could kind of follow along. And I kind of thought when I do this, if I make it 20, 30 episodes and I'm still in this, I'll try to keep going. I think we're up to 62 or 63 now.
Nice, yeah.
So, yeah, so it's nice.
Yeah.
And then we try to have people on that are peers. I've had several, people on that are, like Dane Scott's been on there, Trevor's been on there, Charles Coates, I had the ladies of Fiverr, a couple of girls that are doing fantastic on Fiverr.
Yeah.
We've had J.J. Wilson and Linda Bruno on there. We've had, some folks like that. So some good interviews and good advice.
Yeah, you mentioned that's what I was going to talk about. As I heard you on with JJ and Linda, and I love their podcast. I listen to it as much as I can. JJ just cracks me up. They are see now to me, they are part of that older school that's kind of
Hmm.
sneaking into the territory, and I think they're doing it the right way because every time I've heard them talk about it, they're like, it's more like, all right, now be careful because there's a lot of people out there
Hmm.
that'll rip you off, but even in your interview, I thought they were a bit kinder towards the thought process. And I think what they lean more towards, which I love, is let us help you move. let
Right.
us
Right.
help you go to maybe the possibility of having an agent and maybe becoming SAG-AFTRA and all that. And I have the same thing
Hmm.
going on. I'm taking classes with Sean Pratt, who is a audiobook extraordinaire. He has the Redhead Dojo. They call him the Redheaded Yoda. And anyway, that's what he's helping me to do because I'm going from narrating just on ACX, but he's going to take me to a place that I want to be and probably couldn't get there on my own. So I really
Right.
appreciate those old school folks out there who are encouraging us to better ourselves instead of some of them out there coming in. And I couldn't believe it when I was hearing and watching you on TikTok. I saw several times where you're like, hey, this person's attacking me. What's going on here? It kind of blindsided you. Do you feel like
Yeah.
talking about that at all? I mean, that was kind of vicious. I mean, what was this? What was the
Yeah.
deal?
And fortunately, it wasn't public, which was very odd to me that they decided to keep it private, which I don't know. You don't know whether to respect that or not because they were
Right.
attacking. But everything that I would put up on LinkedIn I would get an email on Friday, saying, no, you're not this, you're not that, you're a wannabe, you're this, you're that, your demos are terrible, your accent's terrible, you'll be belly up within
Golly.
3 months, and it was a name I had never heard. I researched the name on the email, no such person anywhere. Just crazy, crazy. And I thought, well, it'll stop, and then the next week, yeah, I'd get the same thing again. So I finally ended up blocking the person, but I was 99% sure it came under a female's name. It was not a female. I could tell by the wording,
Right.
and they kept calling me dude and things like that. I was pretty sure it wasn't. And I just replied back a final time and I said, look, if you're in the voiceover community, you're not what I'm used to. I'm very used to people being accommodating and
Right.
nice and helpful, and you're not doing that. So, I'm just going to block you and move on, and
Good
things
on
like
you.
that.
Yeah.
It knocks you down. It hurts your feelings, of course, and you feel bad about it, but you just got to shed it and move on because there's, you know, no matter what they're saying to me privately or whatever, and they kept saying, we are watching you, we are seeing what you're doing, and they even got on me for wearing my logo on my shirt. They said, you're just a big egotistical jerk,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I thought,
Because you're
I call
branding.
that
It's
branding.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But okay.
How
So yeah, I just kind of moved on with it and let it go.
That's just crazy.
All
Well,
you can do.
unfortunately, hopefully anybody that's watching this, if you're just getting into this or if you've been in it for a while, that's the wrong way to go. I mean, I just can't. I tell
Hmm.
you, you're really nice about it. I know Anthony just did a podcast the other day, Mr. Pika, and kind of responded to the things that happened to him. And you guys,
Hmm.
I hope I would be that calm. I'm a old scrapper and somebody pops me in the eye a couple of times, I'm gonna pop them in the eye back. I hope not. And that's not a good thing for a Baptist preacher to say. We're supposed to turn the other cheek, but I'm telling you, I only got four cheeks if you count it a certain way. So you abuse all those, you might end up with something back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so
My
good
wife
on
was
you.
a lot
Good, good.
madder than me.
Yeah,
She was ready to go find somebody, and I said, "Hey, don't worry about it.
right.
It's just nothing."
And that's probably best. So speaking of your wife, your family, everybody, did you get a lot of support in your journey over into the VO world, or how did that go?
Yeah, definitely for my wife. Some family members are like, "You're kidding me. You're going to quit your job and you're going to do this." And And I had to sit down and talk to my mother. She's in her early 80s, and explain to her what I was doing. And of course, at first, she was like, yeah, the old school,
Sure.
why would you give up a paycheck and all that? But once I explained it to her, and I'd be home, and, my wife's going to be home, we're changing schedules. And I waited until I was a couple of months in so I could say, and I've had 2 pretty good months.
Right.
So that made it a lot better. And she's understanding of it now. Does she really get what I do? She kind of does. I play it for her sometimes. And the kind of funny thing, I told her if she'd get up early this week, she could see me on local, or hear me on local TV on channel 2, 4, and 5 in Nashville. I was on a commercial for the local Strawberry Festival, a little 15-second spot, and they're running it all week, to get people up here. And she's like, well, honey, if I could just get up that early. But,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. But the cool thing, a guy I work with at Nissan, oh my gosh, 15 years ago, he sent me a message on Facebook this morning. He said, I'm pretty sure I heard you on the news this morning doing a strawberry commercial.
Cool.
Said, yeah, you did. That's pretty neat.
That is
pretty
cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, support's been pretty good. And my wife's just outstanding, and the support on this. Even though we're both home all day, during the week, she knows I get up, I come down here, this is my job, and I try to get done early in the afternoon so we can do stuff. And there's times I say, yeah, I can take you to the doctor visit, and I can go do this with you. The beauty of voiceover, you can break away and go do some things and come back and catch up. So it's great.
Pretty cool.
It's a good life.
So let's kind of change gears here. I heard this, I guess, when you were talking to JJ and Linda on the VO Gurus on their podcast, that you were you got to go to VO Atlanta? Is that right? How
I did.
Tell us about that a little bit.
That was all due to my wife's urging. I told her about it, and she said, we thought it was the last one. She said, you really should go. And I'm like, I don't know, it's a lot of money. And Charles Coates was also pressing me. We were going to get a room together, and it ended up ended up separate rooms. But and it was a great experience. I was nervous, scared. I'm not 1,000% introverted, but I'm slow to warm up to people. I love talking to people and being around people, but I'm not the guy to come up and say, hey, I'm Troy, how you doing?
Right.
I don't do that. I'll walk up with somebody else and listen, and I'll try to blend in. But the learning there was spectacular. The fellowship was spectacular. To be able to rub elbows with these people that you see as legends,
right?
Basically, Joe Cipriano, just as nice a guy as just you and I talking, no different. I had breakfast one morning with Dave Fenoy. This guy's a legend.
Yeah,
and sitting there just talking about the weather and politics, not voiceover, just anything. Just a nice guy. Jay Michael, great guy. I mean, he remembered me from a year and a half ago when I reached out about a demo.
Wow. And like him and his wife are taking over VO Atlanta.
They are.
Yeah,
they are. She, her company Ace is going to run the whole thing, and I think what we're going to see is I went to a webinar thing they had, and I think what we're going to see is more personal touch. Like, it was really hard to find water and coffee.
Right.
And you think, really? Yeah. Well, you go to the hotel thing and you pay $4 for a cup of coffee, and you got to wait because there's a line. But he's saying that's not going to be a problem anymore. There's going to be coffee stations, water stations everywhere, all free. It's going to be some little things just to take the pressures off. It's going to be hospitality geared.
Right.
And I know they're talking to the hotel about better service and better this and that. So I think they'll just up the game. I don't think the camaraderie will change. I don't think the atmosphere will change. It's just a very family type deal. People, meeting up in the hallways, meeting up in the restaurants or wherever, coming out of the meetings. And the teaching is fantastic. If you can save $150 a month or so between now and next year at this time, do it, because you won't regret it. And that's even if you don't pay for an X session, just the regular free classes, it's worth it.
Yeah. I was very jealous when I was listening to you talk about it. I said, oh boy, I just would have loved to have gone to that. That just I kind of am the guy that comes up, hey, how's everything going?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just right up my alley to go to one of these. So I'm glad to hear they're going to keep doing it, and
Me
so
too.
maybe I can be at the next one. Okay, so let's switch gears one more time. I don't know how much time you got. I could keep you all day. Probably
I'm
we could be
I'm
talking about
good.
these. Okay, a
I'm good.
little bit
Yeah,
longer.
I'm good. I'm
Uh,
good till 1 o'clock actually.
okay, I don't know if we can go. I probably could, but my wife has informed me before I got on here that I have to help her. She's the builder. She built my studio. She built a big 12 by 24 foot extension on our house, did all the electric. She does plumbing. Before we went to Costa Rica,
Wow.
she built a 2-story addition on that house. And she's just,
Mhm.
and so I've got to go help her put up some OSB on the kids as the grandkids playhouse today. So she told me
Ah.
I have an hour, so I got a little bit longer, but I wanted to talk to you before we get off because okay, so I started just doing this because I like talking to people. I like finding out stuff. I thought it might be good to have some newer folks come on. There's a lot
Mhm.
of people that are doing, talking to the old school folks, and I wanted a chance to be able to say, hey, I know Troy Holden, now lives in a multi-million dollar house, a 600-acre farm, and
Mm.
drives a helicopter. But I knew him when,
Mm.
he was just getting started. I just thought that was kind of fun. But I am thinking about myself doing a podcast. I've been and just taking like maybe my first interviews. I think I've done 6 episodes of this now, and or maybe this is 7th, and taking the interviews and using that to launch my podcast. So tell us about
Mhm.
how did you go? Hey, I think I need to do a podcast. What was that? How'd that
Well,
happen?
I think the inspiration came from Anthony Pica because he was doing a VO's journey
Yeah,
from when he started, and I thought I don't want to mimic that because that's his thing,
yeah,
but I wanted to do something similar. So when I first had the idea, I thought I'm going to call it the VO Rookie, and I'm going to talk about on the first episode that will I make it or will I not make it? Will I hit the major league or will I not? And we'll
yeah,
follow that path. And then I ended up with the ladder thing, climbing the ladder. Can I get to the top rung of the ladder? And then it became VO life because you're living a VO life.
right,
So much revolves around this when you get into it, whether you mean for it to or not. It really engulfs you, and you're putting so much into it. So the podcast thing was not to really do anything more than give credibility to you as a voice actor. So I thought, if that's on my website that I got a podcast and I talk about voiceover on the podcast, that's a little more credibility that I'm really trying to learn the craft and I'm talking about the craft, because I
right,
can't go on the podcast and just willy-nilly talk about stuff and make it up. I mean, it's either got to be things that's happened or people I'm talking to or how to do this, how to do that, or what happened to me when I did it. So it became more of a credibility thing, just like when I started the VO Life Facebook page, and now we're over 600 people.
nice,
When you do that stuff, you're just trying to build credibility of you. Not to say that I'm a genius about voiceover. I'm not. I got tons to learn. There's still words sometime in a live directed session. They'll bring up a word and I'm like, I don't know what they're asking me to
right,
do. I
yeah,
don't know what that word means. It'll be some crazy, could you do a so and so? And I'm
yeah.
like,
It's like
what?
what? I don't even know what that
So
means. Yeah,
yeah, so at first when they said, "Do you have a pickup?" and I said, "Yeah, I got a pickup out there in the driveway," but I didn't know what a pickup was.
right,
So it was all that stuff, and I think as you build that credibility and all, and people follow it, and you got to be real, you got to be believable, and they got to know that you're not putting on a front. So I think that's what's helped mine a lot. I am who I am. I do what I do. I won't, I'll be straight with people. I won't lie to them. I'll be honest with them.
yeah,
And I'll be honest with myself. It's when I say I can't coach people. There's no freaking way. But because I've done this long enough, if you read it really terribly, I can probably tell you read that really terribly and
right,
maybe
yeah,
you should try it this way. But
yeah,
that doesn't make me a coach. That just makes my little bit of experience help somebody that has no experience.
yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it, I
Yeah.
guess.
That's just really good. And so what I mean, if somebody like me, I'm kind of cheating here because I'm getting some information I need, but interviewing you at the same time. So how did you decide what platform to start your podcast on, and how to break into that whole, I mean, did you do the same thing with VO? Did you find somebody kind of help coach you through it or listen or what? I mean, how'd you get there?
The podcast thing was all just internet research because I knew you had to record it yourself, or you had to record it on a platform. And I thought, well, then what does that do for you? If I come to Zencastr and record it, do they put it out there? No, they don't. Now you have to go to somebody that actually puts the podcast out there to play.
Right.
So I started researching, asking questions, looking into it. What's the best? I've tried, I used Zencastr, I used Riverside. I tried to do some stuff on Zoom because they now split audio files, and that's doable. So what I ended up doing was I landed on Zencastr because of reliability. It always worked. I usually had no problems getting my files. And I went with Transistor FM for all my uploading because it was simple and it was reasonable, and you could put as many podcast shows on there as you wanted.
Gotcha.
So what if I came up with something else later, 3 or 4 others, and I wanted to put those in. I didn't want to be limited. Some of the carriers would only let you have one, and if you wanted another one, you had to pay another $14.99. So
yeah,
that was how I landed on all that, was just a little digging and research, and I really had no clue what I was doing when I started. It was just,
it's kind of like anything, isn't it? Yeah, you just get on there and start going
and
do
it.
Figure it out.
And then I started playing around with, the introductions. I had some friends that started in VO when I did. Luis Porter does my main introduction. I ran into a super guy called James Brown, who's a British VO, and he's doing some stuff for me. Dana Ramoni, who nails Morgan Freeman. Oh my God!
I heard that the other day.
Do him?
Yeah, wow,
he's so good at that. And so, and just utilizing people, that to help you out with, with the effects and make it sound better.
Right. Yeah, I heard that the other day. Like I said, I follow your podcast, and so I heard the Morgan Freeman the other day. I was like, wow,
he's really good.
Pretty amazing. Yeah,
really good.
Well, very cool. Now, before we get out of here, let's talk a little bit about the Elite Academy and Anthony Pica and following some of these guys. Is there anybody else out there that if somebody came to you, they're new, they're wanting to get into it, and you say, hey, listen, because I'm like you, go listen to Bill DeWeese, go listen to, Anthony Pica, listen to, I love Chuck and Stacy, their stuff out there. What VO Buzz Weekly. Now I think they've quit, but they got a whole bunch of backlog of stuff. And is there anybody that you just, that really helped you and you just like to give a shout out to? Say, hey, listen, go check these folks out.
I'll kind of start from top and work down. Of course, the VO gurus, JJ and Linda, were probably the biggest influence on really teaching me how to interpret script and how to read. Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell the Middle Class VO podcast have been great. I actually went to Kevin's house Friday night. He had a little Nashville VO gathering, which was really nice.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Really nice.
Awesome.
He and Christy Bowen. Those were probably the two that helped me change gears. Now, starting out, it was Bill and Anthony. Trevor O'Hare was a big help on a lot of things, and Dane Scott as far as setting things up in Fiverr. All of those people are excellent at what they do. I think the thing is, you got to realize when you get into this, if you don't have a couple of hours or 3 hours a day, and that's a lot of time. If you got a family, it's hard to do.
Right.
To dedicate the time into the learning and digging and learning and digging. And, you'll hear me say it 5,000 times. Get your space set up first. Get a quiet space. Then worry about getting some equipment, and then start learning how to do this.
Yeah.
And the piece of advice I give people the most is, I don't care if it's a book, magazine articles, or what, get those out and practice reading without making mistakes. Train your brain, train your eyes to be a few words ahead, to where you see the periods and the commas coming. You can get through it. You're not stuttering and stammering. And if you are, don't worry about it. Keep doing it. Keep reading. Keep reading. Tons of it. And I think that really gets you over the hump. Then go after some of this stuff on these platforms. There's tons of them. There's not only Upwork and Fiverr, but there's, like Bodalgo and People Per Hour and whatever all the others are. But there'll come a time where you go, well, I can't keep up with all that. I only need a couple.
Yeah.
And, you get busy and you slow down. But once you get going and your sound is good and what you're putting out there is good, then you move on to, all right, it's time to go get good coaching and invest the money in coaching. Because now, hey, guess what? I made $400 last month. Invest that. If you don't need it, invest that
Right.
into you and your business.
Yeah.
Go book somebody for 3 hours or go to workshops,
Yep.
and
That's good.
then go back to work and you'll watch. Guess what'll happen? Now you'll make $800 or $1,000 because you actually do know what you're doing. It's getting better, and that'll keep going.
Yeah.
But you have to reinvest. You've got to buy the coaching. You've got to go to the workshops, and you got to think that I have to do this all the time. You never stop.
Right. Yeah, I've heard any interview that I've heard, there are folks that have been doing this for 20 years still getting coaching, so I think you're right. That's really good. Well, last thing before we get out of here, as I was over at your site, I noticed that you use, what is your demo player called? I just signed up for it.
Oh, VoiceZam.
VoiceZam. Wow. What
Yeah.
a great thing that is, huh?
It is awesome. I like it because you can name all the spots and it splits them out. And if somebody goes to your site and they want to hear just an inspirational type read, oh, that says inspirational, click on it. They don't have to hear the whole demo. So I like that. And I know there, people that are tech savvy can do that on their site builder, but I'm not tech savvy. You give me GoDaddy and VoiceZam and I can work with that, but I'm not.
Yeah, I'm pretty amazed, and that's another one of those. I don't even remember who is it that pushes that so much. It's one of the
Mark Scott.
Mark Scott. That's right. Yeah, on his podcast. And man, I got over there and I'm just like, oh, this is great. I mean, just breaks it down for you and just boom, boom, boom. But I noticed that I haven't looked into this. You've got it even matches your color scheme on there. Is that something you have to go in and code in there, or do they have it set up?
They've got it set up to where you can go in there and pick out different colors and customize it and everything right on their site. Yeah,
I have to go check it out. Yeah, I haven't gotten into it quite that far. I've just put a couple of my demos, or I hesitate to even call them demos. I don't think I'm going to start just calling them samples until I actually have have given somebody, because I hate to say, here, let me send you a demo and have somebody expect us say, yeah, let me send you a sample. I'm not quite right. I'm not quite in the market yet to do the demo thing. So. Well, hey, anything? Oh, you know what? Let's tell everybody where they can find you everywhere. So I know already you've got TroyHoldenVoices.com is your website. You're on TikTok. Very funny. They need to go find you. That's just at Troy Holden. Is that right? On TikTok?
At Troy Holden. Different personality you'll find there.
So funny. Yeah, a little bit more raw Troy there.
It's a mix of everything. It's some VO tips and some silly stuff.
Yeah,
just keep people entertained.
So fun. Maggie Ross, who I interviewed a couple of weeks back, is on TikTok too, and so she's in our Elite Academy as well. And I love TikTok. Me and my wife are always laughing. We get lost in TikTok land. 2 hours goes by, and I'm like, what just happened to me?
Yeah.
Okay, and then where else? So you've got your website. What Facebook?
Yep.
Where else can they go?
Facebook, you can find me a personal page, Troy Holden Voices, or business page. You can also find the VO Life if you're in VO and want to join a group that's got a lot of nice new people in it. We do workouts there. They are not coaching workouts, but it will help you prepare to go to a real workout.
Nice.
And we do some meetups on there now and then, just where we may have 10 or 12 people gather, and we just kind of talk about what we're going through in voiceover, and maybe we're trying something new. So, and also, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything's under Troy Holden Voices. Right. Yeah. Very good. All right. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here? Well, if you're going to get ready to grind. It's a tough business. You got to have tough skin. You've got to be able to never get upset. No matter how many times they say, "Would you read it one more time? Could you do that one more time?"
Right.
You
Yeah.
just have to, yeah, yes, no problem. And if you're not built that way, this may not be the thing for you. You can't be super sensitive if you're in voiceover.
Yeah.
You know, the customer's always right times 100. And but I don't know that I've ever done anything more rewarding and satisfying where you could use all your creativity. You know, I had no formal acting training, but I love to act. I got a huge imagination, and you know, ever since I was a kid, you know, it's just the thing of characters and all that. And if you
Yeah.
feel I need an outlet for that, this is a great place. But just be prepared to work at it and be good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good. Good advice. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks for coming on and being a part of this, and thanks for hosting this on your platform since
Oh, no
mine wasn't
problem.
working. And so I just want to say thanks again.
Why are you still here? It's time to go. The show is over.